All right, I got a serious topic on my hand today. We're talking about mental health, and in particular, we're talking about traumatizing experience or past traumas, and in regards to how it affects your decision making, or could affect your decision making. And this is from a subscriber by the name of My Purpose Matters. So thank you for your question. First off, I want to say I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I am not qualified to give a professional prognosis of any kind about any specific mental health issue. For the record, I am a 15-year veteran educator, and I do encounter traumatized people way often than you may think. You'd be surprised what some of these kids have gone through and what they go through on a daily basis. Some of my students and I had this conversation today, and I'll get to that in a moment. Also, I have worked as what's in Louisiana is called a mental health professional in the area of behavioral health. So I was in a position where I can make some suggestions as to what I may think I'm seeing based on the DSM-6, which is the manual of mental health disorders, and what I know from the psychology coursework that I've undergone. I do have a minor in psychology, but I'm not saying I'm a doctor, and I'm not saying this is professional advice. This is my opinion only. And I did counseling of that nature, or mental health work of that nature. I actually worked in a mental health institution, and we do some services like that still. My family and I, we get, every so often we get some small contracts to help with things like that. So, okay, got to get that out of the way. But if you've been paying attention to this channel, I've discussed knowing what a person's credentials are and the importance of it. And I'll put a link in that below in the comment section, so you can go to it and click on it, so you can understand the importance of credentials when discussing a topic or area of expertise, or what a person may think on the subject matter, so you can choose from that point forward how heavily to take somebody's opinion. Now, with that being said, it is a cold, hard, and sick world for a lot of people. And let me say, I know you've heard this before, but I'm going to go into some, I wouldn't say maybe graphic detail, but maybe shocking and surprising to some of you when I tell you what some of these students have experienced who I work with on a daily basis. I know you've heard before that people say, be careful when you're discussing or thinking about how you might want to be somebody else or not like your life, or how you may be ungrateful for what you do have. Let me tell you, there's some people going through pure D hell on this planet right now. I worked in one school district where the mother of a child was prostituting the young lady. I've worked in schools where there's a family of people who they're generations deep in the drug game. We're talking 4 generations, all the way back to great grandpa and great grandma. And the operation's so quiet you never know what's even happening. And great grandchild is being forced into the drug trade and doesn't want to be. I've seen situations where kids, I've had kids in opposite cliques and opposite gangs in my classroom, sometimes at the same time. That's extreme. That only happened once. Or I knew both kids and they have it in for each other so bad that in their mind, somebody's got to die. And I know both these kids. I've even been in some situations where that's happened. And unfortunately, I've lost students like that. Rape and molestation is just, it happens. It happens. It happens in the home. It happens at different places. What else? Good God Almighty. The amount of homeless students out there is astonishing. It took me until my third year teaching to realize I had taught homeless students. I had kids who would leave the campus, wait until nobody else is around, come back on the campus, and then sleep on the campus. Wash off in the sink, come back and resurface, kind of come out of the shadows once the janitors open some of the doors up, bathe in the sink, and you never know until that student finally revealed that to a coworker. After that, I did some research and I started finding signs of how to identify a person like this. There's 4 that I know of that were basically didn't know what they were going to eat the next day. I'll tell you the first one I remember. This kid had, it was actually a young Caucasian boy. I'm not going to say his name, of course. Happy-go-lucky young man. He was always asking me about things he could do after school, and what he could do to hurry up and get out of this town he was living in, a rural town, almost so far north in Louisiana, it's almost in Arkansas. He'd always be talking about what options he could have in life, where he could, have some form of housing, some way to get paid, and some form of food, just an all-in-one package, and a one-way trip out of this town. And he seemed to lean towards the military. And one day, and this is one of those racist towns where the racism is underlined, but the school mascot is the rebel, and they're still holding on to Confederate flags. And my lot in life is a little bit unique. People don't generally just walk up to me face to face and say what they have to say. Back then I was not quite as I didn't lift quite as many weights, and I was much younger and boyish looking, but I didn't really experience any of this directly, but it was there. And the elements were there, and you could tell, but it never came to a boiling point, so people got along. But I would have never expected this young white kid to come to me and say, "Excuse me, Mr. Renaissance Man, after class, can I talk to you?" So I'm like, "Sure, young man." And the kid asked me for some money because he was starving. He had school lunch, and that's what he had to eat every day. But he was back and forth between various family members, family on meth and different type of drugs, and all types of issues going on, and he didn't know what he was going to eat that night. You'd have never known that this kid was living from house to house and hadn't eaten the night before. And I've had a few students who've had to raise themselves by themselves, literally, totally. We had one kid graduate. He didn't have the best attitude, and believe it or not, having so many people reach out and help the kid maybe was to his detriment, because I guess he got spoiled and entitled. But the fact that this kid graduated and went where he went and did what he did, which I'm not going to get specific because then people could identify the student possibly, which is a big no-no. But I had to tell my coworkers, like, hey, now, I understand what you're seeing and what you feel based on this kid's attitude, but it's a miracle this kid isn't dead or in jail. When you talk about statistics, percentage-wise, odd-wise, which the odds were very much against this kid's favor, he should have been one that was dead or in jail. Not just a saying, literally. The circumstances this person went through should have landed him an early grave or a one-way trip to prison. I could go on and on. Now, I was sharing that with the young man who was telling me how he needed to get a job because he didn't have some things at home. And I'm looking at, I'm looking at certain things about the young man. Clean fingernails, a bathed body, new uniforms, shoes, certain things about the young man. I just asked him some other questions. And basically, while his family may not have everything, he's not poor and desolate. So I had to explain to him, look, right now you're a kid and you get one chance to be a kid. So when this is over, it's over. And I don't want to see you as an adult still trying to reach back and live out a part of childhood that he missed. So please, young man, go ahead and play football. Go ahead, be a kid. Don't put adult pressures on yourself. Don't spend your time in these working environments which are short-staffed and short-handed and high stress and really not for overall what's a small amount of money when you need to be paying attention to your academics and go ahead and chase your dreams and enjoy sports with your classmates, because that's going to be gone. Now, I said all that to say, when you're talking about traumatic events, I've seen these situations break some people. I've seen some people fall into depression and slumps in life that they could never recover from. But and sometimes it's even worse, I think, when somebody experiences a traumatic event that's not their fault. I do know a person, a person who I used to consider a friend. This person moved up and, got some, in my opinion, some help and made an awful lot of money from some advice that I gave this person. But that person decided, well, okay, I'm going to go do my own thing now, and at times had not the best attitude, but okay. Anyhow, this person overcame drug addiction to go from being a business owner to being a drug addict to being homeless and prostituting and all this other kind of stuff to getting back on track, getting a college degree, and living a quiet and peaceful and stable life. Now, that was trauma, being abused by different people and being used by people. That was trauma that, as far as the drug use, this person chose that. What about trauma? Well, let's name some other traumas you might experience that could be your fault. I know life has pressure, but I don't want to see you choosing drugs, whether it's drugs or alcohol, whether it's something that's prescribed or not. That ain't the answer. Trying to self-medicate is never going to be your answer. Qualifications not. Let's go ahead and say that for what it is. That's not going to be your answer. Other traumas that you could possibly choose. If you choose a life of crime and you get beaten, maimed, or mangled, or go to jail, well, it is a result of your choices. But the next day, a new day, when your sentence is over, when you get out of the hospital, or whatever your experience is after that, you chose that path. You did choose that bed. You got to lay in it. But when you get out of it, don't go back, because that's a choice too. One more example of trauma a person could cause. If you and the way you treat people causes you to not have any allies in the world. And the results are, okay, now situations where people could have helped you, you feel alone and you feel like you do need help. Well, if you ran all of your help away, if you ran your lifeboat away and then you drowned, unfortunately, you have to take accountability. You do. The first step in overcoming a problem you solve is being accountable and saying, you know what, this is my fault. But let me learn my lesson. Let me not make this same mistake. Let me move on, and then let me go back and help others if I ever see somebody going down that same path. And it's not that simple. I'm not saying your problems are simple, but accountability is going to be key if you cause yourself your own trauma, if it's self-inflicted. Now, for things you did not cause, mom wasn't there for you. Dad's not there for you. You get raped or molested. We're supposed to be men on this channel. I'm going to go ahead and use strong language. Let's talk about what it is. Let's put it out there. I'm an educator because I care about people, not because I'm trying to hurt feelings. But sometimes people say, hey, you don't know what I'm going through. To a degree, at least I'm acknowledging these things exist. I'm not downplaying your trauma. I know it's real. I know people fall victim to violence. I know people lose their families, sometimes at a young age, and they're not ready for it. Sometimes people have diseases which may be life-threatening or even life-shortening. You may grow up disadvantaged and not have everything in life. You may be forced into some type of lifestyle you don't want to be in. Whatever the case may be, first of all, don't take your pain out on other people, especially not people who are trying to help. You have to control yourself. You have to learn to control yourself. You need healthy coping mechanisms, not unhealthy coping mechanisms. So, for example, playing sports can be a healthy outlet, especially for us men. We don't have a monthly menstrual cycle to purify toxins from our systems and old blood from our brain. What we can do is sweat. And the physical exertion can help you with stress, and it can help take your mind away. And you can also put yourself in a position where you can see your hard work pay off. For example, lifting weights. See, it doesn't have to be something competitive. Just the results you see in the mirror and seeing your body improve, that's a win. Because that's what you want to do. You want to understand what your strong points are. Find every win in life that you can walk away from. Before I even get to my opinions, seek professional help. There are counselors, substance abuse counselors, grief counselors. There's every type of counseling and every type of program out there you can look for. And you can find a lot of this stuff at low cost or free, especially if you're a young person. Do be careful. Do your research. Do ask questions. I'm not advocating for anyone in particular. I do want to advocate for one counselor, but I'm not going to say that person's name without asking that person for their permission. But yes, you do want to seek professional help. Now, back to my opinion, not taking your problems out on people, and having healthy outlets, not self-medicating. Avoid those things. Even though these things have occurred, as you move forward, try to leave the past in the past. Hey, it's okay to acknowledge it. It's okay to embrace it. I do think it is in your best interest to not fall victim to a victim mentality. Yes, life may not always go the way you want it to, or maybe even the majority of your life hasn't gone the way you want it to. But you do have options. You always have some option in life. In America, look, some places, they'll look at you like, oh, you got running water? You have electricity? I'm going to kill myself. Either I'm going to get to America or die trying just to get where you are, where you think you don't want to be. You see how that works? You have a roof over your head? Oh, okay. Well, I got to walk around barefooted. I got to live in a hut or in a tent. You live in a house. Your mom raped you, too bad, so sad. I grew up in a war-torn country. A bomb killed my mom. I got raped every day of my life since I was born. Some places kids are born into the military and they have to fight. I'm not downplaying your trauma. All I'm saying is other people there's somebody on this planet who can make your trauma look like a walk in the park. And that's a sad thing, but you're not the only one. So you have to be strong. You have to be smart. Get that professional help. Learn what your triggers are. Find healthy coping mechanisms. Avoid certain environments. Avoid people who are bad for you. Because you're going to get to an age where you are going to be held accountable like or as an adult. And at that point, unfortunately, traumatized or not, the world gets way less merciful or way more merciless, however you want to word it, for us men. And you have to be strong. You have to keep it together. You have to understand there's homeless shelters let women in and children. That's why you see mostly men under bridges and stuff like this. You've heard me say this in other videos. Don't lose the will to survive and don't lose the will to be victorious. Don't let Satan make you think that you have nothing to be grateful for. And I am going to go ahead and say this. God does love you. And while he works things out in his way, and it may not be the way you want, he does work things out. And this life does end. And there's either better or worse, depending on where you want to go. But you're going to die one day and your soul got to go somewhere. And the reward for giving your life to Yeshua the Christ, letting him wash away your sins, and that peace that you get from letting the Holy Spirit into your life is like no other. Now, I'm not gonna go into a rant per se. I do have a ministry channel. I'll put a link for that video as well. So you'll have two links to look at. One for knowing what people's credentials are and understanding the importance. Another, which is going to be a biblical perspective on this topic. All in all, men, you are tasked as a man with being a leader in one way or another, because somebody's always watching. You are tasked with being strong. You are tasked with being resourceful. You are tasked with getting jobs done. And you are tasked with the fact that nobody's going to come and save you as a man, regardless of what your circumstances are. Whoever you are out there, and you're not talking to somebody, just to reiterate, for me to reiterate, you're not talking to somebody who doesn't see these things and doesn't understand how the real world works. I get it. It's tough out there. But whoever you are, you can make it. You can be successful. You can be victorious. You can wake up every moment of every day, and I understand my language is rough, but you can choose to keep fighting and to keep pushing forward. And you need to make that choice. I'm not talking about a physical fight. I'm talking about that battle in here and that battle in here, to do the right thing, to be positive, to be successful, to make something of yourself, to be a good example. And understand this: when you become victorious, since you know what you're going through, somebody needs that story. So for a person like me who doesn't have a traumatic story to tell, you have a credential I don't have. I have a bachelor's degree. I got a master's degree, a master's plus 30. In education, what's called a specialist degree. I have all these years of experience. I've been a coach, this, that, and the other. I do not have that badge to say I'm a survivor of whatever you survived. You got a credential I don't have. And the knowledge that you have from defeating whatever that is, whatever that trauma was, whatever that bondage was, somebody out there needs you. So you got to be strong for those people. Because one day you'll be the person to look back and say, hey there, nephew. Hey, son. Hey, young man. Let me holler at you. And that's what this channel is really about. Finding a way to win and passing the knowledge on to others. Because I guarantee you, all knowledge is power. And what you know that's positive, that's good, somebody out there needs it, and it's valuable. Hey, whoever you are, just like I love my students, I love y'all too. Peace, blessings, be safe, keep being a man, and do what you need to do.